my name is Curtis Haynes Jr. My title is Dr. Curtis Haynes Jr. I studied economics at the University of Massachusetts and got my PhD in economics at the University of Massachusetts. And while I was at UMass, that's how I became familiar with Lloyd Hogan and his work. And in fact, Lloyd Hogan was one of my dissertation committee members. Okay. I've been teaching for the last 40 years, 35 years, 40 years, I guess. I started in '93, right? So that's 30, and then while I was a graduate student. So I've been at this for quite a while. And my current mission is to popularize what I call prosperity economics in theory, policy, and practice.
Recording in progress.
Lloyd Hogan is one of the greatest economists of the 20th century that most people have not heard about. The structure of his analysis was and is revolutionary, and I feel it is very appropriate framework to understand the change in epoch that we are experiencing right now through the pandemic of 2020 up to now. The world just changed. And so we need a discourse, we need a framework to be able to capture that change in such a way that Black Americans could find a place in this new world in a way that makes sense. But also not just Black Americans, but using a framework that shifts the emphasis away from the production and distribution of goods and services to an emphasis on who we become in the process of producing those goods and services and distributing those, right? That the emphasis shifts away from the material means of survival and all those formations and the manifestations of those to the human being. And Lloyd Hogan's work really opened up the door to another kind of conversation. I treat Hogan's work as a bridge from the economics of scarcity, which Lloyd Hogan was trained in, right? He attributes his analysis to Adam Smith, Karl Marx, and W.E.B. Du Bois. And I attribute those frameworks as economics of scarcity. But his discussion of human energy and the internal labor process, which I found that really captured my attention, and I did a lot of research and experiential research, becoming very aware of myself as the embodiment of human energy, and recognizing that I'm the embodiment of human energy, that human energy can be cultivated. And we could look at the human being and the human being and the human energy that's entailed inside the human being from the perspective of a production function. And Lloyd Hogan's use of the transition from the neoclassical model, where they talk about the circular flow diagram, which is like the core of the analysis, where you have households, firms, where you have labor markets and goods and service markets. He transitioned out of that analysis, that circular flow analysis, to what he called the institutional mechanisms of social reproduction. And those institutional mechanisms of social reproduction and that framework, that analytical framework, is a framework that can be applied to any economic system that exists today on the planet and any economic system that has existed in the past on the planet. And that's something that the analytical frameworks of particularly neoclassical economics cannot capture. I really haven't seen Keynesian economics do it. I know Karl Marx attempted to, with his historical materialism and his dialectical materialism, attempted to develop a framework analyzing, human history, right? But even his framework is caught up with some very Eurocentric thinking processes that are, I feel that you know, they got us to where we are today, but they're not appropriate for where we want to go in the 21st century. This book, all right, and this is the book right here, Principles of Black Political Economy by Lloyd Hogan, and it was first published in 1984. What you have on the screen right now is the table of contents of the Principles book. And let me just say this, what I said before, that the value of principles live in their application. So, you know, we're not studying the principles of black political economy as an academic intellectual exercise. The goal and the purpose of studying principles of black political economy is to apply what we're learning, right, in this economic theory, apply it in what we call community building practices, right? So when you listen to this, kind of imbibe it, right? Just don't listen to it as an academic. Just don't listen to it from the perspective of an intellectual. We're looking to transform the world, right? And we transform the world by transforming ourselves first, right? But as we reach a higher understanding of our conditions, socioeconomic conditions on the planet, we could share that higher understanding with other people. So the table of contents of Lloyd Hogan's book, right, outlines his work. We have the introduction, we have the preface, and there's some real, like, again, Lloyd Hogan, he speaks like an economist. He writes like an economist. And what I mean by that is we economists, we are taught to be efficient, right? And Lloyd Hogan's work, this book is a very efficient book. So each word, each sentence, each paragraph, there's little space. It is empty space, okay? So the preface is filled with gems, right? We'll be covering that. The introduction lays out why we need a principles in black political economy. But let me just say this, right? There's principles of microeconomics. There's principles of macroeconomics. There's principles regard to finance, with principles regard to industrial organization. And so what we're doing right here is we're introducing the principles of an analysis called black political economy. Now, the way this analysis starts is it starts on page 9 of the book. He starts with the general nature of political economy. And this general nature is just setting up the framework, right? Just setting up the analysis, right? It's not really applied to any population of people. It's just, it's laid out that it could be applied to any population of people. The census and the data suggests that there's about 8 billion people on the planet, right? This general nature of political economy can be used to analyze any population on the planet, whether it's China as a population, whether it's Japan as a population of people, the Japanese, right? Whether we're talking about Peru, right? The Caribbean, or even if we're talking about the population just here in Buffalo, New York. Right here in the city of Buffalo, we have about 260,000 people. At one point, there used to be 600,000 people in the city proper, right? That decline in population, a significant component of that decline in population had to deal with race, right? And so the general nature of political economy could be used to analyze the Buffalo population. The general nature of political economy can be used to analyze the U.S. population. So, for example, right, there's about 350, 360 million people in the United States of America. In my own work, right, I use this general nature of political economy as a foundation of my work on economic systems and personal finance. Not focusing on Black Americans, just focusing on the general political economy. And this broad political economy, the U.S. political economy currently is a capitalist political economy. So this general nature of political economy, again, it's not just about Black Americans, but the political economy can be used to analyze Black Americans. And again, one of the reasons that Lloyd Hogan spent so much intellectual energy in thinking about these is that the standard fare in economics, principles of microeconomics, principles of macroeconomics, they are woefully inadequate in understanding the socioeconomic conditions of Black Americans, particularly race and class issues, segregation issues, and the inequity in wealth distribution in the United States, and not even just the United States, throughout the African diaspora and even on the African continent.